So thank you for joining us for another episode of Rugspirations, which is where I interview rug makers of all kinds to get to know them a little bit better and what makes them tick and why they do what they do. And so today, thank you, Marilyn Bottjer from New York, joining us today. Thank you so much for taking the time. When I reached out, it was another rug hooker that Arlene Tift, who said, you have to contact Marilyn. She would be great to interview. And so I really appreciate you getting back to me and agreeing to do this. Do you want
Yes,
to tell us what's that?
she confessed. I said, I don't know how she got my name, and Arlene confessed.
Yes,
Yeah.
we don't keep secrets here.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us where you're joining in from today?
I'm joining you from Sleepy Hollow country, Washington, Irving, on the shores of the Hudson. I can look out my window right now and watch the Hudson flow by. I'm in a senior residence, Kendall on Hudson, which is a Quaker-oriented community, which is absolutely wonderful. And I have lived in this county, Westchester County, about 65 years. So
wow, so it's home.
I'm alone.
Oh, well, sounds lovely. So we'll get started with the questions, but as usual, we never know what exactly comes up. My first one is always, what or who got you started in rug hooking?
Gee, I can't say who. I always have done fiber arts. I sewed all through high school and college, and I embroidered and needle pointed. I wanted to, and I loved early American furniture, so I wanted some hooked rugs, but there was no information out there. I remember I even bought a hook and probably a pattern in Macy's, but I could not figure out how to do it. I saw an article about George Wells, who was a punch hooking artist who did rugs for rich people on the North Shore of Long Island and had a studio out on Long Island. And I came from Long Island, so when I visited my mother, we went to his studio. And I remember coming home with a little half-round pattern with a whale on it and a punch hook. And I don't know what kind of a frame I used or what he suggested, but anyway, I did the whole thing in a day and a half. It cost me $24.
Wow.
And I said, I can't afford to do this. I want to make a rug for my dining room. So I was waiting outside of a church to pick up one of my kids from school, and a woman came out of that church with the most gorgeous hooked rug. I knew exactly what it was. And I found out through a friend, I called the minister at the church. He said, yes, there is a woman who's teaching rug hooking. And I called her and she said, oh yes, come. And I went. And I walked in and there were what I considered at that stage of my life, little old ladies painting with wool. And since I had been told at an early age that I had no artistic talent, I said, oh, I may as well go home. I couldn't do this. And the teacher said, sit down. And I did. She sent me home the first day with a package of dye, a dye spoon, some white wool, said, here's how you dye for your leaves. She started me on a McGowan little fruit square, I think it was.
Wow.
And I learned how to hook.
And I
could do it.
Wow.
So I was only in that class for about a year. She had to go live with a daughter, but I knew how to get patterns. I knew what the process was and how to do it and where I could get materials. And so that started me off. And
wow. And do you continue to use mainly wool, like wool that you've dyed?
I guess you can say yes, I do use mainly wool, but at this stage of the game, I'm using everything and anything that will pull up a loop through a backing.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Which part, if you can choose one, would be your favorite in terms of like, is it planning the rug? Is it working, like pulling the loops, finishing? Or this one seems to be a favorite, a lot of my friends anyway, is sort of shopping and gathering supplies.
Try not to now anymore. I had to downsize. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Uh, gosh, I don't know. I think the planning starts in my head,
Hmm.
and then I mean, I really am not artistic and sketchy. It took me like 20 years to do my first design that was mine, and now I feel guilty if I hook somebody else's pattern, even though there are a lot of them out there I would love to do. But I think the planning, the sketching, and getting the pattern correct is not fun, but I can do it. The colors, I see color first. I still dye, even in my tiny little kitchen here. All of it. I love it all. Well, finishing, my hands are getting a little arthritic, so finishing gets to be a chore, but it has to be done. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you. It depends on the day, I think, which part is my favorite too.
That's true. Yes. I mean, some days nothing goes right.
Yeah.
And so other days it just sails along, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. And do you have any tips there? Because you laughed when I said gathering supplies for not doing that. Do you have any tips for us that have way too many supplies?
Right now, I still have a class, and they're the most wonderful people. And we were talking about recycling, because I don't know if you know about Eileen Fisher, the women's clothing manufacturer. And she has her main office 2 towns away from here. And her whole business now is geared to recycling.
Oh.
And one of her employees came and spoke here at Kendall about this whole, and she does it throughout the world, and teaching women entrepreneurs how to run businesses. And she will take back clothing, that you have bought from her, and then she recycles them. She's got a whole shop full of recycled stuff. So we started talking about recycling, and one of the ladies in my class went through her stash and brought me a big shopping bag full of wools that she had at some point obtained somehow. She'd taken them apart, they were washed, and she said, I have no idea what to do with these colors. So I put them in the dye pot and over dyed. And I think maybe our next challenge in this group might be to hook something using only recycled materials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go in your closet. We've all got stuff in our closets.
Oh, yeah.
And not only that, but there's stuff all over the place.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's, I moved recently, like this past summer, and most people were like, oh, are you downsizing? And I was like, no. I upsized for a bigger studio, but I fear that, yeah. Yeah, so I definitely need to use my materials that I have. Is there something that you wish you'd learned earlier in your sort of rug making journey that might have saved you some stress or worry or frustration that you would want other newer hookers to know?
Don't listen to all of those rules. Just do what you love, do it as well as you can, and be happy.
Yeah.
I mean, you Canadians don't have all those rules Americans were saddled with, like Pearl McGowan and that group of rug makers. You got to do it this way. You can't do it that way. Oh no, primitive. Do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy it.
And was that something you struggled with? Or were you?
Yes, because I'm a person who probably obsessively follows rules. It took me a long time to think, well, I don't have to do it that way. Right now, if I tell you how I finish rugs, I hope you won't be too shocked. But I don't make rugs anymore. Right. There's no need for rugs. I make things on the wall. And I don't whip. Uh, I
So
just
what do you
fold
do?
the linen back and like you're making a hem on a skirt.
Yep.
And so, and then that wonderful stuff, you can write on that. You don't need a label. You can just write name of the piece, your name, the date, whatever you want. A lot easier than,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that is actually how Amy Oxford finishes her rugs. Like it's a fold
right.
over hem.
Mhm.
And in the punch needle world, at least the part that I know, that's perfectly normal. But you're right, in terms of the traditional rug hooking for the
Right.
rugs, they would have a
Yes.
whipped edge or a show
Right.
binding or other. Yeah. Yeah. I've
I
had
have a
many interesting discussions with people about those rules.
I,
And
I have a very good friend who is a textile restorer and has restored many rugs. And she says, if you whip, all you're doing is perforating the edge of the rug. And she said she has been given rugs where the whole edge has just broken off. I've had rugs that were whipped where the threads started popping and you wondered, oh, what's going on there? But for some reason they were breaking. So I thought, gee, there's an awful lot of work for her. And it doesn't really protect the edge of a rug, I don't think, because you don't have enough of your backing left to
mm,
once you whip. Whereas if you fold, you could have a wide hem that's 3 inches and
yeah.
have almost 6 inches of backing if you fold it double.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, we're doing the rugs a favor by not whipping them.
Well, that's what my friend said. She's horrified by people whipping them. And of course I picked that up because whipping's an awful big job.
It is. It is. Yeah. Yeah. I don't do a lot of floor rugs either. So I don't have that
Yeah,
knee or
I
I haven't
think
built.
a lot of people are not doing rugs anymore. The American antique business is over here in the States. And so you can do the beautifully shaded painting with wool rugs and they were very nice.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Um, and so you mentioned that you are teaching and that you still teach. Have you always loved teaching? Like, have you enjoyed that your whole sort of rug hooking career?
yeah, I really have. And I've been teaching this class for almost 30 years. Not the same people, we've sort of turned over, but it's a wonderful group. And I don't so much as teach as it's a collaborative group. Everybody, somebody throws a piece on the floor, we all stand around, and other people come up with great ideas. I'm not the one who says do it this way or
Right.
you want to do it that or use this color. Um, and that's what I love, how I love to teach. I don't really, sometimes I'll give rules, um, but it is mainly um, to make it easier. I have a new student who then hooked all around. She's doing a small piece and she started from the outside working in it. And she said, it's awfully hard. And I said, of course it's hard because it doesn't have any space to spread out in.
Yeah.
Don't do your outside first.
Yeah.
So, rules like that people need to know at the beginning. But after they know how to do it, hey, then you're just
Mhm.
having a wonderful time together.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Um, do you have a favorite sort of foundation cloth or material or tool that you just couldn't live without?
Well, I don't know about anything I couldn't live without.
Right. Well, maybe that's
Um,
exaggeration, but that you love.
well, I've been working on Michelle Miccarelli's linen
Mm,
for quite a long time. I mean, she's practically a neighbor. She lives in Connecticut and is nearby. Um, and I like it. I mostly use the number 6 width. I find my hands, even an 8 is kind of hard to do a lot of with my old hands. So I mostly use 6. And that seems to be a perfect backing.
mm,
And I keep that and sell it to my students. And most of them like it. Some of them use other stuff. They go up to rug camp and see other things, and that's fine. And
Mhm.
bring them back to us and say, here. And we say, oh, that's really great. So, um, I'm sort of, I don't know. When I start people, I try to start them as inexpensively as possible, which is not too easy these days. But I started on a hoop, and I start people on hoop. Of course, now you can't get the nice 14-inch expandable wooden hoops.
Mm.
You can get fancy wooden hoops, which cost quite a bit. But I worked on that hoop for a long time till I finally found a floor frame with the gripper strips. And I love that because it's got a big space to work in. And I'm back using the same hook I started on. It's McGowan's, Moshimer's house hook, as you
Yep.
will, because it fits my hand. And
Yeah.
we don't have any real supplier around here. So this hooking group, they'll say, where can I find other hooks? I said, you're going to have to go to a rug camp,
Yeah.
the vendors,
Mhm.
and there are all kinds of hooks out there. And try one, but you want one that's going to be comfortable in your hand, no matter whether it's a really expensive one or a really cheap one. And so,
Yeah. Well, that's interesting that you like the Moshimer ones, because I just, like I mentioned, I was in Vermont at a hooking school, and we were doing a wide strip. And I had one hook that I bought at an auction, like a fundraiser auction, and it just fit my hand. And I was like, oh, this will be fine, because I'm not a wide strip kind of person. And I went with a friend who borrowed a hook from somebody because she had not done big strips and wanted to buy her own because she realized she really liked the wide stripped. Well, she could not find a hook that she liked from the vendors as much as she'd liked the one that she'd borrowed.
oh,
And the differences of hooks, of the length and the weight,
oh, I know.
it was, and they are a bit of an investment if you're buying these beautifully made ones.
Right? Yes. And I like a short shank. These long shank ones, they're a lot of work, extra work. And but the short shank isn't in.
It really, and yet the one I had that I never hooked with until I started the class, I was like, this one fits me perfectly. But she went through about 12, I think, from different vendors that let her try them until she got one.
Because you're going to spend $30-$40 on a hook, you want to know that it's going to be a comfortable thing to work with, and your hand is not going to hurt.
Not going to be sore. Exactly. Yeah. So that's interesting, because I like those hooks too. I start my new students with a Moshimer hook.
Yeah, and it's what, $11? It used to be like $4 when I started out.
Well,
but no,
everything is in Canadian dollars. It's more here.
Oh, right.
But it's about $20 retail, I think, now. But the ones in Vermont were closer to 50 American, I think they were.
Oh, yes, they are. Those Hartman hooks are they're beautiful.
They are beautiful, but it's a little investment.
But you need to work with them, not just admire their beauty.
Yeah. And I do love Michelle Miccarelli's linen as well. I took a class from her in the spring, and it was the first time, and it was like, oh yeah, this is soft. I mean, I love door linen as well, because that's what I had learned with, but there's something special.
Or what?
Sort of a weight to it.
Soft. It has, I can't think of the word. That's a common thing around here.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I like both, but it was sort of like, oh, this is so different. It was so soft and
right.
Can you describe what rug making does for you? Like, why do you keep doing it? Or do you remember if it's changed from when you started to now?
Keeps me alive.
Oh,
it certainly saw me through the last 2-3 years. I mean, here at Kendall, we were in the beginning not totally quarantined. We could go out and walk around the halls, but without rug hooking, it would have been a very hard, boring time. And I love, as I say, I love color, working with color, as you can see from the piece behind me. Right now, I'm sort of doing things by color. I'll say, oh, let's do a red rug, and let's do a turquoise, my favorite color, and just see what happens. And I've got a lot of them still up in my head, so I may be hopefully around for a while to do them. Oh, my hands enough strength.
And do you think that was the same when you started hooking? Did you feel that same sort of just like, this is keeping me going?
Well, then I was, a wife, a mother of 3 kids, a house, the whole works. Yeah, it was some of my social life was with rug hooker. Going to rug camp was divine, as you probably felt. Getting away from the family and spending your whole time just doing what you love to do, it with people who have the same experience. So no, it's like any art. I think somebody who really loves doing art, and it is art. It's not just craft.
Yes.
So yeah, I hate to think of the time when I might not be able to do it, but
well, hopefully there won't be that time.
I hope not.
Yeah.
And then well, now who's going to take all this stuff? I've got friends like that.
Well, I'm sure you could have a gallery exhibit as well. I mean, in the things that you might have created in the last, how long have you been hooking?
60, since 1965, 35, 45, 55 years. Yeah, I've hooked hundreds of pieces. I've sold hundreds of pieces. My kids have, well, not hundreds, but they've got a lot.
They've got a lot.
Yeah.
Wow. And well, on that, it makes me think, this isn't one of my usual questions, but somebody that has created that amount of artwork, do you keep track of it? Like, have you kept a log or journal or?
Yes, before computers, I would take a picture of each piece and write on the back, what it was and when I made it. And, I think and I had albums of pieces. And then when the computer came, and the picture I sent you of that piece, I call it Rug Profiles. I have a picture of the piece, what it is, what size it was, maybe why it was made, what it was made of. And because my husband was a very good amateur photographer, he would take the pictures for me, and I did learn how to download them into the computer and to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
I swear now the computer is so complicated, and you take pictures. I can take pictures with my iPad, and they're very nice, but I haven't figured out yet how to get them into my PC, which is, I'm ready to throw off the edge of my house, and continue. So I'm sort of falling by the wayside lately.
Oh.
I try, but it just, every time they install an upgrade, you think, oh yeah, sure, it may be an upgrade for you, but it's going
to. Yeah, simpler is better.
I use one of those words.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I like things very simple and straightforward, and more time hooking.
I can write on the back of them now, since I have that nice hemming in the back. You can put a fair amount of information.
That is true. Well, and just taking a picture, I always feel like, at least if you have taken a picture with your cell phone or iPad, it digitally records the date. So I'm already ahead.
Right. That's right. It's the date you want to know. I'm talking about Arlene Tift, who recommended to you. She's an incredible rug hooker. And I said to her just last week, you've got to put the date. Oh, she had put the date in. She said, her husband said, that's great. I said, well, yes, you really have to have the date somewhere, because at some point you're going to say, when on earth did I hook this? Was it before COVID or after COVID? you want to know how old a piece is or when you hooked it. So
Yeah.
having the date is very important.
Yeah. And it's so easy to forget. I don't know about you, but I
Oh,
forget if it was
absolutely. Yeah,
last year, 2 years ago, three, it's all kind of gets blurry very quickly.
right. And if you turn out several pieces a year,
Mhm.
um, they all sort of run together.
They do. They do. So I'm going to pull up and share my screen to show the one of the pieces that you created. Um, and we can chat about it a little bit. So hopefully everything works here.
Oh,
There we go. Does that show up well on your screen?
yeah. Mhm.
Perfect. So Birth of a Universe. Do you want to tell us about it?
Well, I belong to this small hooking group that was by invitation only. And it's an absolutely wonderful, there were 6 of us, one has died. Now there are 5. And we sort of thrive on challenges. And this challenge was to hook a 24-inch square. And somewhere within that square was a 4-inch diameter black circle. And that was it. So there is my 4-inch black circle with a black button in the center. And I had all of this. It's a man-made roving that I got up in Webb's. Do you know about Webb's in Massachusetts?
No, I don't.
It's an incredible yarn place. So don't sit on your couch at night with your catalog.
Okay.
It's terrible. But it's a man-made roving, and it's all different colors, and it's sort of shiny. And I thought, I'm going to use that. And then I also, have you worked with thick and thin yarns? Actually, it's roving, thick and thin roving. So you can see those little loopies are where I would pull up the thin part and then continue hooking with the wider part. And do you know about Malabriga yarn?
Yes, I do know Malabrigo.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, I think I have every color that they catalog. It's and hand dyed in Uruguay. It's the most beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
And I had there's wool fabric in there too. And I just, and then on the edges, if you look, well, down the bottom, sort of where your picture is, there's some needle felting with a pearl, and which is a little, and I've got some rhinestone stars, and there's a red comet up in the right-hand corner, which was needle felted. And it was just great fun to do.
That is wonderful. It is absolutely wonderful. And I'm curious, how do you come up with a challenge like that? Who gets to decide in the group that it's a 20-inch square and a 4-inch
Well,
circle?
somebody starts it off, and then we talk about it and come up with, we've done some pretty incredible challenges.
Oh, fun. That is so fun.
And even my hooking group here, we love challenges. We just finished one called Hooked on Books, where you design and hook a piece inspired by a favorite book. And we're looking to exhibit it at one of the local libraries in January.
Oh,
so,
fun.
but it brings a group together, and it sort of reinforces their unity or their interest in each other and things like that.
Yeah, I'm relatively new to challenges. I'll just close this for a sec. But I did do one with my group last year where we came up with a quote, like something that we say or something that we like. And everybody that participated sent it to me, and I sent their quote to another member who was participating.
Oh, I what Arlene did. I think she was part of that. Yes.
Yes, she was. And then once we designed, did a sketch or some kind inspired by that quote, and then had to switch people again. Anyway, it got a little confusing. But it was pretty fascinating to see people's, the journey from the quote to the drawing to the actual hooking.
No, it makes everybody think, which was terrific.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you so much. I'm so inspired. Is there anything you could tell us about the rug that's behind you? Because I keep looking at it in awe.
Oh,
Um,
again, it's got, and actually one part of it, I don't know if you can see, this part is reverse hooking, that I did the loops on the back side.
yeah.
Flat. I've got Pradi up here. There are beads up at the top, some beads in here. And of course the Malabriga, where you can pull it up and it fluffs. It's
Yes.
marvelous. And it's my favorite color. So I
Beautiful.
just said, I sort of love this, I don't know what it is. It's, starts with a point and come back
Yeah.
to a point. It's a wonderful design and they go together and you can do great things with them.
Yeah.
So it's great.
It is absolutely beautiful. I just, I want to reach through the computer and touch it.
I'll send you a better picture. I don't think I have a really good picture. It's kind of hard to take the light, even though I've got this wonderful north light. For some reason, maybe it's because it's a dark colors.
Well, and there's something about that kind of rich texture that I think is in that, the multiple
Yes,
layers.
there's a lot of texture in there.
It is very hard to capture that adequately
Right.
in a photograph, but it looks beautiful from here. So absolutely beautiful. And I'm imagining that is your own design then. You said most of yours are designed now. Wonderful. Do you prefer abstracts, like just from the other two pieces?
Yeah, I have been doing abstract. That with color is fine.
Yeah. Oh, fun. Absolutely beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Marilyn. It's been super inspiring. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing more of your stuff. And who knows, maybe one day I'm going to come your way, because I would love to see Michelle McRelly's studio and meet Arlene and meet you. It'd be great fun.
We have you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.